The last surviving member of the band passed away at 87.
Yeah.
We've got all your sources right here, and looks like we're going to uncover a career that was even more amazing than I realized.
Absolutely. It truly is the end of an era, and when you dig a little deeper into Garth's career, you see just how influential he was, even beyond the band's success.
So for those who maybe need a little refresher, the band was huge EE in the 60s and 70s. They backed up.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan
Yes.
had iconic hits like The Weight, Up on Cripple Creek. Where would you even start placing them in music history?
Well, it's almost hard to categorize them because they were so unique.
Right.
Imagine this. It's the mid-60s. Folk music is at its peak. Bob Dylan's leading the charge, and then boom, he goes electric.
And the source actually calls it Dylan's first electric tour, which is interesting because I know that caused a stir.
It did.
What was the feeling around that at the time?
It was a total revolution, and a lot of Dylan's folk purist fans felt betrayed.
Right.
But for others, it opened up this whole new world of sound. And right at the center of that shift was the band with Garth's keyboards and saxophone adding a whole new dimension.
Which totally makes sense when you think about the range of instruments he played. Organ, accordion, piano, even the clavinet.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
And he wasn't just playing these instruments, he was mastering them.
Yeah.
There's this anecdote about him being able to replicate a whole horn section
on
the organ.
Oh, wow. Talk about talent.
Yeah, so you have this mix of influences. Then you add in Garth's almost orchestral approach to the keyboard.
Yeah.
It's no wonder the band's sound stood out so much.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the band's success, it wasn't all about Dylan, was it?
No. They had some massive hits of their own.
Oh, absolutely. The Night They Drove Old Bixie Down.
Yes.
Ophelia. These songs became anthems for a generation.
Yeah.
And don't forget Rag Mama Rag.
Oh, man.
Pure earworm material.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
I actually got Rag Mama Rag stuck in my head just reading the title in the source material.
I bet.
But here's the thing. Despite all this success, the source keeps calling Garth underrated.
Yeah?
Why do you think that is?
That's a great question.
Was he overshadowed within such a talented group?
I think it's partly because each member had such a distinct personality and role.
Yeah.
Robbie Robertson took the lead on songwriting. Levon Helm was the charismatic frontman.
Right.
Maybe because Garth was known to be quieter,
Yeah.
more introspective, his contributions weren't always in the spotlight.
So maybe his contributions were a little less visible to casual listeners.
Yeah.
But vital to their signature sound.
Absolutely. Anyone who dives deep into the band's music can hear how crucial he was.
Yeah.
Adding texture and depth to their sound.
It's almost like he was the glue that held everything together.
You could say that.
Yeah.
But here's where things get even more interesting. His career after the band.
Right.
He didn't exactly retire to a beach somewhere.
Right. You don't just stop after a career like that.
You don't.
I was looking at his post-band ventures. I saw a solo album, The Sea to the North.
Yes.
And wait, is that a band called Burrito Deluxe with Sneaky Pete Kleinow?
Yes.
Wow.
And then, believe it or not, he forms a 12-piece band with his wife, Maud, singing lead.
Wow.
This wasn't just a guy content to rest on his laurels.
Yeah.
He was a restless, creative spirit.
Now, this is where I need some context, because this really piqued my interest.
Sure.
What kind of music were these later projects making?
Well,
was it a total departure from the band?
It's fascinating because you can definitely hear echoes of the band in his solo work. But there's also this willingness to experiment. The Sea to the North has these elements of jazz, classical, even ambient music.
Wow.
Burrito Deluxe leaned more into a country rock vibe, which makes sense considering Sneaky Pete's background.
Right.
And the band with his wife, The Best, showcased Maud's incredible vocal range.
So we're talking about a guy who is always evolving, pushing himself creatively. The tributes pouring in really speak to how his music touched so many people.
Yeah.
One fan said, "We've lost one of the greatest and most underrated musicians of the 20th century."
Wow.
You musical phenomenon?
Yeah.
It's amazing to see the emotional impact of his passing.
It is.
Like an entire era is coming to a close.
It is, yeah.
Another fan wrote, "R.I.P. Garth Hudson. The gang has been reunited." And this last one really hit me. This is so bizarre. I was listening to the band this morning and thinking how lucky we are to still have Garth
Oh, wow.
May he rest in peace.
It's a poignant reminder that those we admire aren't with us forever.
It really is.
And for Garth, his music will continue to inspire and impact listeners for years to come.
Absolutely. As we dig deeper into Garth's journey, I'm curious to explore his solo work in those later projects and see just how wide his musical range really was.
We'll definitely be doing that.
Yeah.
And I think listeners will be surprised at just how diverse and influential Garth Hudson was across his entire career.
Absolutely.
It's striking how often Garth Hudson is described as a musical chameleon.
I love that description.
Yeah.
It really speaks to how he was able to blend in and shine in so many different musical settings.
Right.
We touched on his range of instruments earlier, but what else makes him so versatile?
It goes beyond just the instruments. Think about the different musical contexts he thrived in. Okay. He could be laying down soulful organ riffs on a Dylan rock anthem 1 minute, then transitions seamlessly to these incredibly delicate accordion melodies on a mournful band ballad the next.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
He wasn't just switching between instruments.
No.
He was adapting his entire style and tone to match the feel of the music.
Exactly.
I'm starting to understand why he's been called underrated.
Yeah.
His contributions were often subtle, but so essential.
Precisely.
Yes.
And to do that, you need a deep understanding of music theory.
Right.
Garth was truly listening to the other musicians, weaving his sound into the fabric of the song.
Wow.
Not just playing his part, but elevating the music as a whole.
Okay, that makes me want to go back and listen to all their albums with a fresh ear.
I know, right?
What Garth is adding.
Yeah.
But let's get back to those later projects.
Right.
The 12-piece band with his wife, Maud, particularly caught my attention. Was that purely creative exploration?
Yeah.
Or was there a more personal story there?
It's probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
You can tell Garth loved music and was always pushing creative boundaries.
Right.
But you also get the sense that this project was a real labor of love.
Yeah.
A way to share the stage with his wife and let her incredible vocal talent shine.
That's really lovely to think about.
It is.
Their shared passion for music becoming this beautiful collaboration.
Absolutely.
Did they write music together for this project?
They absolutely did.
Wow.
Maud brought her own strong voice to the lyrics, adding a whole new layer to Garth's musical ideas.
So they were pushing each other creatively, and as a couple, it makes you wonder how their relationship influenced the music itself.
Absolutely.
Maybe even brought a new energy to it.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
And when you listen to their work, you can hear that energy, that joy.
Right.
It's not just technically impressive, it's emotionally resonant.
Which brings us back to the outpouring of love from fans.
Yes.
You can tell his music touched a lot of people.
It did.
Even those who might not have known about his later projects.
Absolutely. And I think that speaks to the staying power of the band's music.
Yeah.
Those songs have become part of our culture, and they continue to resonate with listeners across generations.
Yeah.
They tapped into something universal and timeless.
And Garth's contributions to that sound, though often subtle, were such a key part of it.
Yeah.
He really was the master of setting the mood and tone of their music.
Exactly. He was the sonic architect, building these incredible musical landscapes. And like any great architect, his work may not always be flashy or attention-grabbing, but it's fundamentally important to the whole structure.
Which is why, even though he wasn't always front and center, his loss is felt so deeply by so many.
It's a loss that the music world will feel for years to come. But his music lives on, and that's a powerful legacy.
You know, earlier you mentioned how adaptable Garth was to any musical situation.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, what if he had been born in a different era?
Right.
What if he came up in the age of electronic music?
Or
hip-hop?
Now that is a fascinating question.
Yeah.
It's impossible to know for sure.
Right.
But given his talent and willingness to experiment, I have no doubt he would have found a way to shine.
I can absolutely see him diving headfirst into a world of synthesizers and drum machines, pushing those boundaries and creating something completely new.
Exactly. He was a true innovator.
Yeah.
Always exploring the possibilities of sound.
Right.
Who knows, maybe he would become a pioneer in a whole new genre.
Wow.
The possibilities are endless.
It's amazing to think about all the what-ifs.
Yeah.
When you have a musician as talented and forward-thinking as Garth,
Right.
It really adds another layer to his legacy.
It really does, and it reinforces the idea that great musicianship transcends specific genres or time periods.
Well, we've only scratched the surface of Garth Hudson's impact on music.
I agree.
As we wrap up this part of our dive, I'm feeling incredibly grateful for his contributions to the world of music.
I couldn't agree more. And for everyone listening, I highly recommend taking the time to explore the full scope of Garth's work.
Right.
From the band's classics to his solo ventures and later projects.
Yeah.
There's a treasure trove of music waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep listening.
Keep exploring.
Keep exploring, and keep the music of Garth Hudson alive. As we wrap up our deep dive into Garth Hudson,
Yay!
I keep coming back to this word legacy.
Yeah.
It's a word that gets used a lot,
It does.
especially when we lose musical icons like this.
Right.
But I'm wondering, does it really capture the impact of someone like Garth?
That's a great point. Sometimes legacy can feel like a way to just sum up a whole career in a single word, you know?
Right, exactly.
Without truly capturing the essence of the artist.
Exactly. But when it comes to Garth, I think his legacy is about something much deeper than just hits and awards.
I agree.
It's about his constant drive to explore and evolve as a musician.
Absolutely. He was never content to just repeat himself or follow trends.
Right.
He was always pushing boundaries, experimenting with new sounds, blurring the lines between genres.
He wasn't afraid to take risks,
No.
even after achieving incredible success with the band.
Right.
That creative restlessness is something I really admire.
It's one of the things that makes his music so timeless. You know, it speaks to something universal, something that resonates with people across generations and cultures.
It's almost like his music transcends
It does.
specific eras and genres.
Yeah.
It connects with something deeper, something fundamental about the human experience.
And I think that's the truest measure of any artist's legacy.
Yeah.
The ability to create work that continues to resonate long after they're gone.
It's funny, we started this deep dive talking about how Garth was often called underrated. But as we've explored these sources, I'm starting to think that maybe flying under the radar allowed him to create from a purer place.
That's an interesting thought. Maybe by not chasing the spotlight,
Right.
he was free to just focus solely on the music, on the art itself.
And that pure creative expression shines through in everything he did.
Yeah.
From the band's iconic hits to his more experimental solo work.
It's like he was driven by a deep love for music itself.
Yeah.
And that passion is ultimately what connects with listeners.
So to everyone listening, I urge you, don't just remember Garth Hudson for the wait up on Cripple Creek. Amazing as those songs are.
Right.
Dive into the band's entire catalog.
Yes.
Explore his solo albums. Seek out those hidden gems from his later collaborations. Discover the full range of his artistry.
Absolutely.
Because within those notes, within those melodies, you'll find a legacy that extends far beyond any single word or accolade.
You'll find the heart and soul of a true musical innovator, a master of sound whose impact will continue to ripple through the world of music for generations to come.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
And on that note,
we'll
bring our deep dive into the life and music of Garth Hudson to a close.
A true legend.
Keep listening, keep exploring,
Yes.
and let the music guide you.